Welcome to Jerry Recap. The story continues. There was a gurgling sound in the room. A group of officers including Qin Xiaojun who came to hear the news were stunned as they looked at the storage jars marked with the 4th level different marrow, which were all over the place. This kid named Lu Xing can really swallow it all. 14 cans of 15 billion different marrow fluids. I am afraid if he contends with a 6th level martial artist, the opponent will be bursting, but this kid will remain fine. He can even take the palm of Yufei's. The other 3 contestants were also stunned in place. The majestic power that shrouded everything, and the punch from the master Yufei, just the aftermath made the 3 of them feel numb in their scalps and tremble all over their bodies. While on the other hand, Lu Xing only felt a slight pain in his hand after clashing with the Grandmaster. Over 500,000 combat power. It's no exaggeration at all, but the key is that Lu Xing has just entered the 4th level. In the end, the eyes of all the officers looking at Lu Xing changed. Jia Haoren mumbled while pointing toward Lu Xing with his trembling hands. He said, "Haha, are we being assessed by someone like him? I have never heard of any Qiming star going to such extremes." While on the other hand, Kong Qing fainted, not being able to digest the whole scene. "Lu Xing, this kid, is now stronger than us." Qin Xiaojun smacked his lips and said in a very sentimental tone, "Grandma, but he is only 18 years old this year. He has not even taken the unified test yet." While Dong Qingxue had been staring at Lu Xing dazedly without saying anything. After realizing that Lu Xing had not even taken the unified test, sweat poured down Qin Xiaojun's face. Qin Xiaojun turned his head suddenly, opened his eyes wide and subconsciously wanted to say something, but quickly shook his head. I don't know. After Qiming General Star, Lu Xing had to take a unified test to enter a top university. Dong Qingxue stared at the radiant, high-spirited young man in the center of the crowd, and suddenly said, "You tell me, is it possible for Lu Xing to ascend to the dragon? This time Lu Xing will achieve great success in the whole world." The 3 contestants were completely stunned at this time. Yufei's words shook their brains and their bones trembled. They knew that the gap between myself and Lu Xing would be huge, but I didn't expect it to be so big. Over 500,000 combat power _. That is to say, a 4th level Lu Xing has the combat power of a 6th level warrior. After reaching the 5th and 6th levels, is it possible for the combat power to break through 1 million directly? Not a Grandmaster, but better than a Grandmaster. The most important thing is that Lu Xing's road to the 7th level has long been opened, and he has long condensed his own martial arts will. The 10 dazzling golden suns just now were the best proof. How can they compare with Lu Xing? What can they compare with Lu Xing? The most irritating thing is that Lu Xinglian's ability to absorb different marrow is also dozens of times more than theirs. Lu Xing spoke out hesitating. It turns out that I have absorbed so much grade 4 exotic beast marrow. Only then did Lu Xing realize this. Lu Xing wondered. No wonder I just felt that the amount of external energy was a little exaggerated. It turned out that there had been a steady stream of replenishment. Thinking of this, Lu Xing said to Yufei, "Thank you, Master." Yufei's affection for him this time is indeed a little big. Yufei waved his hand and said lightly, "Don't thank me. When you go to the battlefield and kill a few more alien beasts, it will not be a waste of these alien marrow fluids of my eastern military region." Lu Xing nodded and said, "This is natural. Going into battle and killing the enemy is the duty of every martial artist. Moreover, and I have taken up so many resources, I ought to offer a more substantial contribution." After hearing Lu Xing's words, Yifei smiled and said out loud while looking at Lu Xing, "To take responsibility without hesitation. There is a hint of Grandmaster's presence within you." Yifei then strode away while loudly saying, "The next time I meet you, you might be a Grandmaster. Don't you think? I am looking forward to that day." Dong Qingxue instantly walked towards Lu Xing and said, "The selection of Qiming generals is over. You should be doing your best to deal with the college entrance examination, right?" Lu Xing nodded and counted the time. The college entrance examination was not long away. "Have you decided which university to apply for?" Dong Qingxue asked. Lu Xing saw that there was something in Dong Qingshue's words, and said, "Do you have any good suggestions for Instructor Dong?" Dong Qingxue said without hesitation, "With your current strength, you can choose any martial arts university in the Dragon Kingdom. It depends on whether you like it or not, and whether it is suitable or not. If you don't want to go too far, Dongning Wuhan University is a good choice. If it was a month ago, I would definitely advise you to go to Dongning Wuhan University. Because you are a native of Dongning Province, if you go to Dongning Wuhan University, you can get great benefits in all aspects. But for now, I suggest you go to Kyoto University." Lu Xing's eyes flickered. Dong Qing's suggestion was similar to his own. He had also planned to apply for the entrance examination to Xinwu University in Kyoto Province. Dong Qingxue looked at Lu Xing calmly and said word by word, "Because there are 7 holy martial arts universities in Kyoto, it is the origin and prosperity of the Dragon Kingdom martial arts. The top martial arts talents in the entire Dragon Kingdom are all gathered there, and it is a real place where tigers and dragons are entrenched. If you can sharpen yourself there for a few years, it will be of great benefit to your future martial arts development. You can join St. Wu University, and even become a disciple of a saint." St. Wu University, saint's disciple. Lu Xing's eyes flickered. After seeing Lu Xing getting excited, Dong Qingxue got depressed. She did not ponder much, and quickly got back to normal, and continued speaking. "A martial saint is the pinnacle of this world. They possess unimaginable power. They even surpass the authority of the military and nation." She further said, "Now in the Dragon Kingdom, there are 3 9th-level martial saints. Martial Saint of the Supreme Way. Martial Saint Mingyu. Silent Star Martial Saint." Lu Xing already knew about the strongest in the world through the eye system in dream space. In the current era, Martial Saint was the pinnacle of power in this world. Dong Qingxue calmly said, "I cannot decide for you which university to choose, because I can already feel it. Your future will go farther than anyone else, to the point of not being inferior to a martial saint." After hearing Qingshue's words, Lu Xing was amazed by the thoughts and beliefs of Qingxue on him. "I possess 3 supreme martial arts techniques developed at level 11, martial arts. My future achievements will be undoubtedly farther than a martial saint," Lu Xing wondered. While on the side, Qin Shaojun had been listening to their whole conversation. He wondered how could someone compare a 4th-level martial artist to a martial saint. But he knew that Lu Xing's achievements had already surpassed that of any young geniuses. So it's not certain at all. On the other side, Dong Qingxue kept on speaking and said, "In the entire Dragon Province military district, the highest rank anyone has achieved is 8th rank. As for the 9th-level martial saint, there is not even one." Lu Xing asked intriguingly, "Why not? Isn't it just a difference of 1 level? Can't we use entire military power to break through 1 level?" Qin Shaojun interrupted Lu Xing as he strode forward and said, "It's not as simple as you think. To nurture an 8th-level Grand Master, we have already expended all the top-tier military resources. We simply don't know how many resources it would take to reach from the 8th level to the 9th level. From the 8th to the 9th level, there exists an unimaginable chasm." Dong Qingxue interrupted Qin Shaojun and further explained, "To have a 9th-level martial saint. It's a long-standing wish of ours as well as the military. So as Lieutenant Colonel in the Eastern Military District, I should advise you to stay in the East. In this way, you will have a high probability of joining the military area in the future." Dong Qingxue looked at Lu Xing steadily, and said seriously, "However, our wishes should not become a chain that binds you. Your path should be decided by yourself. I think you will come back in the future, right?" Lu Xing looked at Dong Qingxue's exquisitely pretty face, and suddenly thought of the line of words in the spouse column of his profile in the dream space, and felt inexplicably embarrassed. Inadvertently dodging Dong Qingxue's eyes, but still said with certainty, "Instructor Dong, don't worry." He further said by patting his chest, "My ultimate goal of practicing martial arts and strengthening my body is so that I can fight on the battlefield one day, protect the family, and defend the country?" Lu Xing changed expression, turned more serious as he said, "The the support and care provided by the Eastern Military District. I will never forget that in my entire life. A gratified smile appeared on Dong Qing's face. She nodded and said, "You're right, I read you right, Lu Xing." As both of them were talking, Qin Xiaojun, who was listening to their conversation, started giggling as he watched their cheeks getting reddish, showing slight feelings for one another. He tried to hold back his laughter, but after a hard try, he started giggling loudly. Dong Qingxue further advised Lu Xing and said, "Since the election is over, there are only a few days left until the college entrance examination. You should hurry up and get assessed by the Psychic Association. It will help out in the college unified test." Lu Xing nodded and asked, "If there's nothing else, I'll go back first, Instructor Dong." Lu Xing really didn't want to stay alone with Dong Qingxue. He always felt that the atmosphere was weird and it was easy to think wrong. Lu Xing then left. Dong Qingxue wanted to stop Lu Xing but couldn't. Dong Qinggu watched Lu Xing leave, feeling a little puzzled, but didn't think too much about it. Right after Qin Xiaojun started teasing Dong Qingxue, saying, "After many years, that was the sort of face I had never seen on you. Does Miss have feelings for Lu Xing?" She punched Qin Xiaojun, replying, "I absolutely do not." But after leaving the room, she laid back beside a wall. She could feel a throbbing in her heart, like a tingling feeling. 3 days later, over Liangqing, Dongning Province, the black super-large military helicopter flew over a lone mountain, and the cabin door opened. "Lu Sheng, are you sure you want to leave here?" The strong wind poured into the cabin, blowing Dong Qingxue's hair on the temples. Lu Xing, who was carrying a black backpack, grabbed the cabin door, turned around, smiled at Dong Qingxue, and said, "There are few people here." Dong Qingxue nodded and said, "Then wait for the helicopter to descend further, and I'll put the rope ladder down." "Need not," Lu Xing said with a smile. Before Dong Qingxue could react, she saw that Lu Xing suddenly let go of his hand holding the cabin door, and he threw himself towards the sky below. He flew straight out of the helicopter, saying, "Instructor East, goodbye." Dong Qinggu stared blankly at Lu Xing, who was rapidly shrinking in front of her eyes, but her mind hadn't turned around for a while. She instantly went to look down, watching Lu Xing flying down. She could only see a black figure floating in the air. Qin Xiaojun, who was next to him, swooped up, stuck his head out of the cabin to check, and was stunned. He said, "Fuck, this kid is going to die. It's at least 200 meters above the ground. He's not carrying a parachuter." However, Dong Qingxue regained her composure and said lightly, "Don't worry about him, he will definitely not die. Don't forget that he is still a third-level spiritual teacher, and his spiritual power is much stronger than mine." Qin Xiaojun breathed a sigh of relief, then shook his head again, and sighed with a complex expression, "What a lunatic. Huanya Mountain is not a tourist attraction, and the scenery is not good. But the advantage is that the location is secluded and the air is fresh, so on weekdays, some people come to mountaineering for exercise and outings to relax." "Dad, are you tired?" A kid spoke. Next to the kid, a man spoke, "I'm not tired. Dad is a 4th-level martial artist." The middle-aged man in orange sportswear responded with a smile to his son on his back. "Dad is amazing," the kid replied. The middle-aged man and kid looked up subconsciously, and in the next second, their pupils shrank fiercely. They saw the sky above and noticed a black spot rapidly enlarged, like a human figure, falling from the sky. The sound of the silhouette falling into the sky became louder and louder. "Is that a hero, Father?" said the kid. The middle-aged man's eyes suddenly shot 2 bright lights, and his expression moved. "No, it's a warrior. A very powerful warrior, at least level 6, or even." The middle-aged man took a deep breath and said slowly, "Master of martial arts." At this time, the figure that fell from the sky had already landed heavily on the ground on the top of the mountain. The terrifying impact directly smashed the ground and smashed 2 big pits. The people on the mountain saw a figure standing steadily with his feet open and his head slightly lowered. This man was also carrying a black mountaineering bag on his back and wearing a casual suit. When the other party raised his head, Everyone could see his face clearly, and suddenly there was a gasp of breath on the top of the mountain. Lu Xing had already broken through the fourth tier and had obtained internal energy. But it will take some time for internal energy to completely spread throughout his body. It may take about a month for it to fully develop. After falling down in the forest, Lu Xing went ahead and jumped down the cliff to run towards the city. After training the golden body, Lu Xing's internal energy has changed into golden energy. It is similar to what Yifei has told him about golden bones and jade muscles. Every time Lu Xing uses his internal energy, it creates a golden glow outside his body that has a domineering presence. While going down the mountain, Lu Xing thought, Dongning Province is just up ahead. I need to get registered at the Psychic Association quickly. He wondered, I have heard if the registration goes well, you could score some bonus points in the unified exam. A gust of wind blew past the people on the mountain. Lu Xing's speed quickly turned into a phantom of blue smoke, dashing furiously on the way down the mountain. The middle-aged man's cognition was confused, and his worldview was greatly impacted. The middle-aged man gave a wry smile and said, maybe it's some kind of high-tech on his body, we just didn't see it. When he said this, his face was full of complexity. Dad, wasn't that Big Brother Superman just now? The childish voice of the little boy rang in his ears. The middle-aged man patted his son's back and put him down. There is no Superman, it's just a movie, come down quickly, you have to go down the mountain by yourself. Lu Xing walked into the building with the signboard of the Dongning Provincial Psychic Association. An attendant led Lu Xing inside, walked to the first room on the corner, and pushed the door in. The room is large and divided into two halves. There is a spiritual purity assessment machine in the middle of the first half, which is similar to what Lu Xing once saw in Dong Qingshua's office. The other half consists of vertical glass walls. There are also many irregular small holes in the glass wall and the middle of the glass wall. 3 people including Lu Xing were waiting to be assessed. Come in order. Hurry up, just the 3 of you. The young man glanced at the application form in his hand and said, Wang Guofu? Who is Wang Guofu? The bald middle-aged man immediately stood up and went for his assessment. The bald man, after assessing his purity, went on to test his spiritual control. The test attendant brought out a box filled with iron balls and handed it to the bald man. The man carefully selected 6 iron beads that looked the smallest in size but were actually about the same size as the others and walked to a yellow line in front of the glass wall. Immediately afterward, his expression became serious. Lu Xing was rather amazed after watching the psychic test procedure for the first time. 6 small iron beads jumped into the small round holes on the glass wall at a speed visible to the naked eye. After passing through the 6 circular holes, the iron beads slowed down and almost stopped. The bald middle-aged man's forehead began to seep sweat, and this step seemed a little difficult for him. A small iron bead accidentally hit the edge of a round hole, and the entire glass wall immediately made a crisp cracking sound. Large swaths of cracks spread from the glass walls. The youth announced the end of the assessment. The bald middle-aged man's mental strength loosened, and the 6 small iron beads he controlled lost the support of their strength and all fell down. It was already his last attempt at spiritual assessment. The young attendant spoke, Given your age, it's very difficult to have any new breakthroughs. Go home, no need to come again in the future. The young attendant seemed to be old acquaintances with one of the candidates. When she saw her, she immediately greeted her with a smile. Fei Fei, are you coming to participate in the 2nd level assessment again? Can you pass this time? The girl immediately reflected, saying, Mind your own business, I was a level 1 psychic at the age of 20. Isn't it normal to fail a level 2 assessment at the age of 25? The girl turned her head to look at the bald man and further spoke. He is almost 50 years old. I am not the same, okay? The test supervisor replied, Okay, let's proceed then. She then noticed a young man standing nearby. Who is this young man? She said. The attendant that brought Lu Xing into the testing room spoke. He was referred by Major Dong Qingxue from the Eastern Military District. Make sure to treat him well. After the attendant introduced Lu Xing, Fei Fei's gaze turned to look at him. The same thought arose in her mind. So young, is he also a psychic? After staring closely, she pondered, this young man is quite handsome. Her attitude towards Lu Xing was a little different now, and she took the initiative to say hello to Lu Xing. Hello, little brother, my name is Xuefei. I was embarrassed to misunderstand you just now. I didn't know you were a psychic. Lu Xing nodded. Xuefei smiled graciously, and then asked curiously, how old are you this year? What level of mental power are you? Why are you coming to the association this time? Lu Xing could see that Xuefei was a very curious woman by nature. He replied casually, 18, this is the first time I came to Liangqing, and I was planning to do a formal assessment. Was that thing earlier the test content? Lu Xing asked curiously. Xuefei nodded. There are 3 tests in total. The first test is the strength of mental power and the purity of mental power, and then the second test is the control of mental power. Xuefei said, first, use the instrument to measure the strength and purity of mental power, and then test the control under the order of the examiner. She further explained, in fact, it is to pass the small ball. How many small balls are controlled to pass the obstacle within the specified time is considered a success. It's very complicated, and I can't explain it clearly. You'll know when you test it. Xuefei sighed and said, your first level assessment will be fine, but mine is a second level assessment. God bless me for passing this time. I don't want to do it again for the 4th time. Lu Xing looked at Xuefei with her hands clasped together in a prayer-like manner, and felt that this person was quite interesting. Then the supervisor called for Xuefei. She instantly rushed to the spiritual purity assessing device. Xuefei walked to the instrument and put her hand on it. Soon, the hexagonal prism glowed, and the score jumped out. Mental strength, 11.33 T, and spiritual purity, 1.02. Lu Xing didn't know the judging standard of the second-level spiritual teacher, but he saw that Xuefei was obviously relieved to see this result, which was obviously up to the standard. The supervisor in charge of the assessment also nodded and said, the basic mental strength has reached the standard, and then the control is left. Xuefei nodded and walked to the glass wall. Different from the first-level spiritual teacher assessment, the second-level spiritual teacher needs to control a full 15 iron beads at the same time. The number of glass walls that iron beads need to pass through also reaches 5 layers. But the time was shortened to 20 seconds. The supervisor took out a stopwatch to measure time. Suddenly Xuefei's eyes turned color, and spiritual energy started coming out from her body. Xuefei used her mental power to control 15 iron beads suspended in front of her with a serious expression, and she could see that she was a little nervous. The atmosphere in the room seemed to be tense with her. Lu Xing did not know about the standard of level 2 psychic, but he could see that handling 15 iron balls was the standard for the level 2 assessment. One needs to constantly focus on all 15 balls to pass this assessment. Otherwise, a slight fluctuation will shatter the glass wall. Xuefei spit out a word. She waved her wand to control the iron balls floating in the air. 15 iron beads started lining up in front of the holes in the glass wall. Xuefei was tensed up at this time, and sweat poured down her face. The 15 iron balls concurrently passed through the first glass wall. She took a breath of relief, as the balls successfully passed the first wall. Her eyes flashed again, as she readied herself to pass the test in one go. The iron balls passed through the second and third walls simultaneously. When it was time to pass through the 4th layer of glass, the speed began to slow down. At this time, Xuefei's nerves were also tense to the limit, her eyes staring straight ahead without blinking, a dense layer of fine sweat oozing out from her fair and clean forehead. Finally, the 4th glass wall passed smoothly. But before Xuefei could relax a little, time up. The supervisor made an announcement. She lost her focus and all the iron balls fell back on the ground. I'm sorry, let's do it again. Xuefei nodded, not too frustrated, and continued to start the second attempt. She again controlled all 15 iron balls simultaneously. Lu Xing was watching everything, and the test seemed interesting to control and train one's psychic power. The supervisor again took the stopwatch in her hand, and then with sound the test started. Spiritual energy started pouring out of Su Fei's body. This time, it was similar to the first start, and the first glass wall passed smoothly. Following the first, second, and third passed as well. But when it came to the fourth layer of glass, perhaps because Xue Fei wanted to learn the lesson of the previous one, she thought of going faster. So that when the 15 iron beads passed through the fourth layer of glass, a few accidentally hit the glass wall, and the whole glass wall made a burst of cracking sound. 15 iron beads fell to the ground. Su Fei also fell on her knees in disappointment. When the supervisor asked her if she wanted to try again, with a wry smile on Xue Fei's face, she shook her head and said, "No, I'm still too far behind to pass." The supervisor sighed and said nothing, just gently pressed the restart button on the wall. "You can keep going." At this time, a voice sounded. The three people in the room followed the sound and saw Lu Xing with a calm face. "It's just that you didn't do it the right way." Lu Xing walked in front of Xue Fei, tapped his temple with his finger, and said, "Use your brain more, don't just look in front of you, look behind you." Xue Fei was taken aback. "What do you mean?" Lu Xing continued explaining. He said, "Your approach just now was to adjust the position of each iron ball. Then pass them through the glass wall. Then adjust the balls to correspond to the hole in the next glass wall. This method is not wrong. But it takes too long and has a huge burden on psychic power." Lu Xing's explanation left Xue Fei stunned. The young boy who she just thought was a mere high schooler was giving him advice. Lu Xing kept on explaining further. He said, "This test not only assesses strength but also the computational ability of a psychic user. At the beginning, determine which small holes the iron beads will pass through, and then treat each small hole as a point, and the point and the point are connected in series, which is a complete route. In this way, through 5 layers of glass, all you have to do is control 15 beads to complete 15 different routes." Xue Fei's eyes lit up as if grabbing something. "Wouldn't it be much simpler?" said Lu Xing. Xue Fei instantly followed and said, "It does seem doable. You are very smart." The supervisor in charge of the assessment looked at Lu Xing with approval and said, "However, this method is simple to say, but not easy to do. Few people can determine 15 routes in such a short period, and calculate each of them. The distance between the holes, the rate of passage, and other variables." "You are wrong." Lu Xing shook his head. "For ordinary people, this may be a lot of calculations, but for spiritual masters, this is really too easy." With that said, Lu Xing looked at Xue Fei and said lightly, "Watch out, I'll only demonstrate it once." Xue Fei was stunned for a moment, as were the assessment youth and the bald man. The next moment, the three of them saw it in horror. The iron balls packed in the boxes started floating. All the iron beads on the ground floated up, densely packed, like a huge bee colony. The supervisor in charge was stunned. She shouted, "What the hell, is he controlling all the iron balls?" Lu Xing pointed towards the glass wall. In an instant, the number was nearly 1,000, and the iron balls gathered together in an orderly manner. After a moment, the huge iron bead swarm flew forward quickly. Moments before reaching the glass wall, the swarm spread out abruptly and quickly passed through the round hole in the wall. The number of round holes on the glass wall did not match the number of iron beads, but all the iron beads passed through smoothly at an orderly rate. When the last iron bead passed through the first layer of glass walls, the first iron bead had already passed through the third or even fourth layer. All the iron beads are like living beings with self-awareness, moving quickly between layers of glass walls. After just a few seconds, the huge black bee colony has all reached the back of the last layer of glass wall. Suspended there quietly, like a group of soldiers. All the iron balls passed through the glass walls. Lu Xing turned his head to look at Xue Fei and said, "The idea is very simple. Just pass them through in order like this." "How many seconds?" Lu Xing then turned his head to look at the supervisor who had been stunned for a long time. The supervisor looked at the time subconsciously and blurted out, 11, "Oh no, exactly 10 seconds, exactly." Lu Xing nodded in satisfaction. Immediately, he turned around and looked at Shui with a dull expression and said, "How is it? Do you understand?" Shui didn't speak, and she couldn't speak at all. The three of them stared blankly at the smooth and complete glass wall in front of them. Shui and the three did not see how the nearly 1,000 iron beads passed through the layers of glass walls unharmed and reached the end of the room. No, they actually saw it. But the speed of the iron beads is too fast. No, it's actually not fast, because the flight path of each iron bead is clear and followable. They really don't understand. It's as if a magician is standing in front of you and performing a magic trick. You can clearly see his every move, but you just don't understand. The impact and shock of the scene just seen on their spirits was too great. It is so big that the three views almost collapse, and the brain almost shuts down. The room fell into absolute silence for a minute. Then the supervisor in charge of the assessment was the first to wake up and admire Lu Xing's technique. She turned her head to look at the attendant and ordered him to go fetch the head of the Psychic Association. Inside the president's office, an old man in his 60s dressed as a retired cadre sat in front of the computer, staring straight at the computer screen. He was the president of Dongning Province Psychic Association, who had been gambling on computers using his psychic powers. A figure passed through the office and ran all the way to the door of the president's office. He desperately slammed on the door and came inside. He spoke out loud, "Chairman, there is an emergency. You have to look at the computer data." The president turned his head to look at the person who came in. "It's Xiao Zhou, what's the matter, so anxious?" He turned around and continued to stare at the computer. The young man rushed to the old man's side like a gust of wind. He hesitated for a long time, his face turned red, but he didn't know what to say. The young man took a deep breath and seemed to have finally sorted out his thoughts. He leaned into the old man's ear and quickly said something. The old man's body shook violently. He pressed a mouse in his hand, and a pair of wang bang threw it out. A pleasant beep sounded immediately from the computer. The young man nodded solemnly. "President, you can directly adjust the monitoring." On the screen, the old man could see a young boy assessing his spiritual power purity. It was Lu Xing. He walked to the test instrument, put his hand on the hexagonal prism, glanced at the young man beside him, and said, "Can we start?" Lu Xing got the affirmation of the supervisor and began to slowly inject his own spiritual power into the test crystal. The old man started biting his nails in confusion. What is this dazzling light? To be honest, even Lu Xing himself was very curious about his current level of mental power. Soon 2 values popped up on the display. Mental strength, 435T. Spiritual purity, 126. The supervisor in charge of the assessment and Shui are now in a state of dizziness and confusion. Shui spoke up in a trembling voice, saying, "Is the machine broken? This value is too terrifying." But the supervisor did not reply. She was lost in her own thoughts. What is the spiritual purity standard of the Spiritualist Association for the 2nd level spiritualist? It's 1 and for a 4th level is 10. That is to say, the young man in front of her who looks like a high school student, his spiritual power is 126 times the purity of an ordinary 2nd level spiritual teacher. He is a 4th level spiritual teacher and has more than 12 times the purity compared to a normal spiritual teacher. The association president rushed out of his office and instantly entered the testing room. He went straight to the supervisor in charge. "President." Jiang Jinian quickly calmed down, and then said to Lu Xing with a serious face, "Mr. Lu, do you mind if I ask someone to check the instrument?" Lu Xing seemed to have an ordinary reaction to Jiang Jinian and nodded casually. "Please." The president then ordered the supervisor to check the test equipment. It seemed to be broken. Jiang Jinian pointed to the instruments in the room and said to the young man. The supervisor called out immediately before he looked into the room, "Impossible, President. The new instrument that just arrived last month has been in use for a month and I haven't seen any problems. How could it be broken?" Lu Xing was rather confused by the commotion. He went to the president and asked, "Is there any problem with the values?" "I'm sorry, Mr. Lu, we don't mean anything else, it's really your achievement." It's amazing? Jiang Jinian's expression was quite complicated, and his emotions were turbulent like stormy waves. He has lived for most of his life, and he has seen countless geniuses and evildoers, but not even one like Lu Xing. Could it be that he is the descendant of a 7th level or 8th level master teacher? Jiang Jinian even guessed so in his heart. At this time, Lu Xing opened his mouth and pulled back Jiang Jinian's thoughts. President Jiang, let's go through the operation assessment of the last level. Jiang Jinian hurriedly said, wouldn't it be troublesome, if you even needed to take the test with such strength? Lu Xing shook his head and said, it's no trouble. With that said, Lu Xing casually glanced at the glass wall next to him, and a huge 4th-level spiritual force penetrated his body. The supervisor in charge notified Lu Xing to start. The stopwatch started ticking. In an instant, the nearly 1,000 iron beads at the finish line, like a well-trained bee colony, passed through the layers of glass walls and arrived in front of everyone. For a moment, everyone in the room felt suffocated. Especially Xuefei and the others, their hearts were once again impacted by magic. And this time the impact was even worse than the last time. Because this time was not a demonstration, Lu Xing's manipulation of the iron beads was much faster than before. It just took 2 seconds and the beads had already passed half of the glass walls. Lu Xing knew that he could go even faster. So he increased the speed of iron balls. The iron balls kept on passing in continuously in an orderly manner through the glass walls. In an instant, all the iron balls came out of the glass walls. Lu Xing smiled and said, the second round felt more proficient. This time it would not have taken even 5 seconds, right? When the supervisor checked the stopwatch, she said in a trembling voice, 4.5 seconds. Xuefei, who was standing beside Lu Xing, started trembling as he witnessed Lu Xing's prowess. It was not even his full strength yet. And this time, Jiang Jinian also saw it with his own eyes. Almost as soon as all the iron beads passed through the first layer of the glass wall, his pupils shrunk violently. Lu Xing's hand just now has already shown the terrifying mental control power of a 6th-level spiritual master. And looking at his relaxed and freehand look, obviously, this is far from his limit. It is comparable to the spiritual control power of a master-level spiritual teacher. Jiang Jinian only felt that his scalp was numb, as if his face was smashed 100 times. Lu. Mr. Lu, your strength has been recognized by our association. Later, I will personally make a certificate for you and issue a badge. Jiang Jinian took a deep breath, and his attitude towards Lu Xing had completely changed. This is respect for strength, regardless of identity or age. He further said, the highest we can reward is a 4th-level certificate. You need to go to a head branch in the capital to certify for the levels above. Then I will trouble President Jiang. Lu Xing nodded and replied politely. How can there be any trouble that is not troublesome? It was originally my duty. After speaking, the president left. Lu Xing is still the same Lu Xing, but in Xuefei's eyes, Lu Xing seems to have countless halos in an instant. The tall, straight, and handsome appearance seemed to be shrouded in layers of mist, giving her an incomparably mysterious and stalwart feeling. Lu Xing, oh no, Mr. Lu. Xuefei stammered, said half a sentence, and hurriedly changed it. How old are you this year? Lu Xing replied, 17. How old do you think I am? You thought I was an old monster who looks like a high school student, but actually doesn't know how old I have lived? Xuefei nodded earnestly and said, how can you read my thoughts? Lu Xing laughed and said, let's read less fantasy novels. He further explained his situation and said, I have to take the college entrance examination in 2 months. If it wasn't for the certification of spiritual teachers to help with the college entrance examination, I wouldn't have come to Liangqing. Xuefei suddenly looked surprised. Oh, right, she was suddenly a little embarrassed, and said hesitantly, I still have another chance to be assessed. Do you want to try again? Lu Xing was a little funny but still said to Xuefei, of course, you have to try it if you have the chance. You can still have it, just relax. He got close to Xuefei and held onto her arm to describe the control process. Xuefei was taken back as Lu Xing held her. She started getting embarrassed, and Lu Xing kept on explaining the process. No one knows if it was Lu Xing's encouragement that played a role. Xue Fei's last control test was actually passed by a miracle. Xue Fei jumped in excitement and turned towards Lu Xing to thank him. Meanwhile, the president congratulated both of them on passing their assessment and said, "Stay and have dinner together tonight." Jiang Jinian hurriedly changed his words. An additional 4th level spiritual teacher is a great event for Liangqing and even the entire Dongning province, and it should be celebrated. Lu Xing thanked the president and wanted to go home as fast as possible. But he looked at the helpless expression on Jiang Jinian's face, and the faint hope in the eyes of the young man in charge of the assessment next to him. His expression loosened, and he reluctantly agreed. He said, "Okay, but don't be too grand, just have a casual dinner." Flowers bloomed on Jiang Jinian's old face. "Our association has a special hotel for reception. Mr. Lu will go to rest for a while, and then have a light meal together in the evening," Jiang Jinian said with a smile. Lu Sheng agreed to stay for dinner, which was a great honor for him, the president of the association, and he was very happy. Lu Xing nodded, originally wanting to say that he would take a taxi, but suddenly glanced at Xue Fei, who was still immersed in the joy and excitement after passing the 2nd-level spiritual teacher examination, and said coldly, "Why don't you send me? I remember you came here by car?" Xue Fei was stunned, her beautiful eyes widened, and she pointed at herself in disbelief. Xue Fei reacted instantly. A huge excitement and joy appeared on her face, and her pretty face flushed. Xue Fei was in high spirits and waved her hand. "I will take you for a ride." Xue Fei led Lu Xing to her red sports car and took the initiative to open the door for him. "Mr. Lu, get in the car." Lu Xing nodded. After getting into the car, Lu Xing waved at the president. "President Jiang, don't need to send me, see you tonight." Jiang Jinian smiled and waved back. The fiery red sports car roared away through the city traffic. Along the way, Lu Xing didn't speak, and Xue Fei didn't dare to speak, so she could only look at Lu Xing in the second seat secretly through the corner of her eye and the rearview mirror. To this day, Xue Fei still can't believe what she's going through today is real. Mainly because Lu Xing looked too young. Lu Xing, who was dressed in casual sports, held the car door sideways with one hand and looked at the rapidly passing scenery outside the window. He looked like an ordinary little fresh meat. Who would have thought that this was a genius 4th-level spiritual teacher that even the chairman of the Dongning Province Spiritual Teacher Association would respect? Being so young, looking so handsome, and having such a good figure, the key is that talent is so terrifying. Compared with Lu Xing, those second-generation self-proclaimed elites that Xue Fei usually sees are simply scum, a piece of shit. She noticed Lu Xing's glare. At this time, Lu Xing suddenly turned his head to look at Xue Fei. Xue Fei's pretty face suddenly turned red. The little heart was beating fast. What did Lu Xing's eyes mean just now? Could it be? She pondered. A bold and shy thought suddenly popped out of Xue Fei's head. Impossible, how long have I known him? Actually, it's not completely impossible. Most adolescent boys like the type of big sister. I'm not bad-looking, and I have a good figure, just like a royal sister. The more Xue Fei thought about it, the more likely it was. She even started to take care of her hair in front of the rearview mirror unconsciously. Xue Fei was so confused that she pressed her foot on the race. The car started speeding up. It rushed through the traffic speedily. Suddenly the car stopped as it reached the hotel. At this time, Lu Xing suddenly turned his head to look at Xue Fei again. Lu Xing spoke. Xue Fei, do you usually drive like this? Xue Fei did not bother and tried to speak, but she was taken aback when Lu Xing said, "You should run away now." The next moment, she turned to look at Lu Xing and asked about the reason. Lu Xing was looking at him with a strange look, and said, "Did you know that you just ran 3 red lights in a row, and now 2 police cars are chasing us?" Suddenly sweat started pouring down her face. Xue Fei sent Lu Xing to the door of a hotel and left a sentence. Mr. Lu, I'll pick you up tonight." She ran away as if to leave. Behind her, 2 police cars followed closely behind. Lu Xing didn't bother to pay attention to her and walked into the hotel alone with his luggage. Lu Xing was taken directly to a room on the 3rd floor by the waiter. Next, Lu Xing sat on the bed, entered the dream space, looked through his personal information, and found that his resume had changed slightly. Next to the original 7th level Grand Master and the Lieutenant General of the Eastern Military Region, there is another 7th level spiritual teacher and the honorary Vice President of the Dragon Kingdom's Spiritualist Association. In addition, Lu Xing also noticed that his resume included the titles of member of the Dongning Pharmacists Association and Vice Director of Lingxing Pharmaceutical Company. Could it be that there is movement over there, Heilingsu? Lu Xing thought about it, turned on the computer in the room, and searched the internet. Next, he woke up and checked the news for the latest information. It was all about Heilingsu. Her recent actions have caused quite a stir in the market. The media was creating quite a fuss over the new medicine launch. The original Baihe Xingshantang Pharmaceutical Company, Limited officially changed its name to Lingxing Pharmaceutical Company, Limited yesterday, and launched a new drug, Lingji Zhuangxue decoction. It is understood that this drug is the latest new drug developed by Lingxing Pharma, and it has incredible effects in nourishing blood and strengthening the body. Just a short piece of news could be seen aired on news channels. Don't you notify me of the name change and the launch of the new drug? Anyway, I am also the largest shareholder with 90% of the shares. Lu Xing muttered to himself, and picked up his mobile phone. And found more than 20 missed calls from Heilingsu. Well, Heilingsu couldn't find himself at all. Lu Xing wanted to call Heilingsu to inquire about the situation, but after thinking about it, he put down the phone again. Anyway, he will return to Baihe City tomorrow at the latest, and it will not be too late to find Heilingsu. Then he entered the dream space to search for Heilingsu's information. It was unexpectedly discovered that Lingxing Pharmaceutical, founded by Heilingsu, has finally grown to a market value of over 10 billion. It seems to be a giant in the pharmaceutical industry. Lu Xing pondered. It seems that this woman Heilingsu is still a bit capable. This is only developed based on a soup of spiritual muscles and blood, and it does not contain anything else. It is amazing. Suddenly Lu Xing's eyes fell on a piece of information related to Heilingsu. Lu Xing's name was written in the spouse section on her profile. Suddenly the whole person almost jumped from the ground. What's the situation? Lu Xing hurriedly went to his personal information again and found a column for his spouse. Not only Dong Qing's name was not removed, but Heilingsu's name was added for no reason. Lu Xing is numb. He wondered, what kind of person am I will become? Lu Xing sat on the ground and muttered to himself. At this moment, he suddenly realized that he didn't understand himself a bit. In an illusory future, everything is possible. It will change soon. Lu Xing suddenly recovered and quickly forked off the information. He just wanted to see if his authority had broken through the 4th level. Lu Xing has seen it before, and his character evaluation still stays at 3.5 stars. Lu Xing suddenly thought of something. He quickly manipulated the light brain and searched for spiritual muscle-stained blood soup. The result is, you don't have enough authority to obtain medicine formulas above level 5. Lu Xing took a deep breath and his expression shook. He thought of this possibility when he took out the spirit muscle's strong blood soup. After 10,000 years of development, the prescription of Lingji Zhuangxue decoction appeared in martial arts 300 years ago. Will it be improved and become a higher quality prescription? The result was beyond his expectations. Not only was Lingji Zhuangxue decoction really improved, but it was also transformed from an unclassified tonic into a treasured medicine above the 5th grade in one fell swoop. That is to say, my idea is feasible. Lu Xing's brain was running at high speed. As long as I publish what is 10,000 years later, human civilization will have an additional 10,000 years of development time in the study of this item, and it is entirely possible to push it to a new height. Lu Xing looked around. The dream space was still the same as before. It seems that nothing has changed. No! There are still changes, he shouted. Lu Xing then called up the latest news that could be found in the Tinder resource library. He was surprised to find that the deadline for the news was 10 years earlier than what he found when he first entered the dream space. That is to say, after 10,000 years of development, a soup of spiritual muscles and strong blood has won an additional 10 years for the entire human civilization to survive. What if it were the 11th level supreme exercises such as stellar body refinement technique, natural breathing technique, and crystal viewing ideas? A bold idea popped into Lu Xing's mind. He even had the urge to post all these exercises on the internet in one go. But he quickly suppressed it and dismissed the idea. Not to mention whether the release of these exercises in the 300 years of martial arts can completely save the future of human civilization. Once it is announced, it will inevitably cause an uproar in the world, the existing order will be broken in an instant, and the society will inevitably be in chaos. And my family and I will be at the center of all storms right away, and God knows how it will end. Moreover, if this is the case, the future of the human race cannot be saved. The last fire that remained in my body for more than 10,000 years of martial arts will be completely extinguished. There will be no hope for the future of the human race. Lu Xing looked calm and cleared his mind. The best way is to release these exercises slowly after I have a certain strength to control the overall situation. The weak human race with 300 years of martial arts needs a correct leader of civilization. This leader can only be me. Let others come, I do not worry. Lu Xing's heart returned to peace. He seems to have found a shortcut, but this so-called shortcut is likely to be a dead end. A dead end for him, his family, and the entire human race. Lu Xing didn't dare to gamble. That's all for today. If you like the next part of this manhwa, just comment below. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment for getting epic content on this channel.